Hey folks, we'll give a 1 minute warning. Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our Administration and Finance Committee meeting on June the 10th. I'll now call on Rianne Kassar, Committee Clerk, to conduct the roll call. Rianne.
Thank you, Chair Redmond.
Present.
Councillor Craig.
Present.
Councillor Erb.
Present.
Councillor Foxton.
Present.
Chair Harris.
Present.
Councillor Hunick.
Present.
Councillor James. Councillor Liggett. Councillor McCabe. Councillor Nowak. Councillor Rodriguez.
Present.
Councillor Salonen. Councillor Shantz. Okay, there's Councillor Salonen. Councillor Verbanovich. Here. And Councillor Wolf.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, I would like to acknowledge that the land on which we gather today is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, and Chinantan peoples. We acknowledge the enduring presence of the Indigenous people with whom we share this land today, their achievements, and their contributions to our region. Do we have a mover and a seconder for a motion to reconvene? Moved by Councillor Foxton, seconded by Councillor Hunick. We'll go over that yes or no button to validate that.
I'm a yes, this won't turn on for me.
Councillor Liggett's a yes, I'm assuming she's here. Okay, she supports that. At carried, colleagues. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? Okay, seeing none, there are no delegations. I'll ask with regards to the consent agenda, if there's any items that you wish to remove, please indicate so now. Seeing none, do we have a mover and a seconder to approve the consent report? Moved by Councillor Verbanovich. Oh, Councillor Verbanovich does have, you would like to 612, Region of Waterloo Arts Funding Governance, you'd like to move that out? Okay. Then that will have a mover and a seconder to approve the remaining items on the consent report. Councillor Wolf and Councillor Erb. All those in favor, please. Councillor Liggett and Verbanovich on that one, if you don't mind. Yes, good, okay. Yep, thank you. Okay, we'll head into, we'll head right to 612 then, the Region of Waterloo Arts Funding Governance Review. I'll call on Rod Regier, Commissioner Planning and Development and Legislative Services to speak to the report. Rod.
Thank you very much, Chair Harris. So I see Julian Kingston is in the room and is able to answer any questions as well. You'll recall that last year we initiated a review of the Waterloo Region Arts Fund and the funding for arts organizations that the Region of Waterloo provides. I think it was in the amount of approximately $350,000 annually. We engaged KPMG to review the operation and make some recommendations. We've got a recommendation to proceed with the recruitment of a new agency to execute the funding arrangements for artists and arts organizations in the Waterloo region. For the short to medium term, that would be up to 3 years until 2027. on an annual basis, and then to explore the opportunity for the formation of a regional arts council with our partners, area municipalities, and the arts industry partners in the future. So those are the two pieces of direction that we're seeking from council today. I don't know if Julian, you have anything to add to this information.
Just that we came to this process through the chair, that we came to this process through a lot of work with KPMG, and also in discussions with the arts community. So I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, and we have one, Councillor James.
Actually, I think Councillor Verbanovic is in the queue ahead of me because
Okay.
he pulled it, so I'll let him speak first.
Very kind. We'll go to Councillor Verbenovich and then over to Councillor James.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you to staff for the report. I guess I have some specific questions on the report, but then some broader questions in regards to just the sort of the region's role in funding things, particularly at a time when we know we are stretched on the things that are our core services, and then really looking at what our role should be in other areas. And so on the report, I guess number one, the report actually talks about the broader arts community, including what happens in obviously the area municipalities that are all part of the region. But it's my understanding that there really wasn't city staff solicited by the consultant as part of the initial report, and yet there will be potentially impacts on our municipal arts departments and our budgets. And so I'm just wondering what the thinking was around that and why that might not have occurred.
Thank you. Through the chair. So KPMG didn't directly involve area staff from area municipalities, but we have been discussing this on an ongoing basis at the Municipal Cultural Initiatives Working Group. So the managers of arts and culture in the various municipalities are aware of the study and of these recommendations. It has been discussed.
But so again, to be clear, simply saying, "Hey, we're the region, we're doing this study," isn't engaging them, and so I am concerned that we would have had a consultant do such an important body of work, engage with the arts community, but not actually engage with the order of government that actually probably does the majority of arts and culture funding in our region. I mean, historically, the region's prime area of responsibility has just been around grants, and obviously our museums and so on. And so I'm just trying to understand, why we wouldn't have been engaged in that process in a meaningful way.
Through you, Chair Harris, the Waterloo Arts Fund is entirely 100% funded by the region of Waterloo, and I think we had a particular challenge to deal with regard to our relationship with that organization, and so engaged a process that we felt addressed specifically the concerns that had been raised in the process. And obviously, on a go-forward basis, all of the area municipalities and the arts community as a whole would be involved in any conversation that we have about future options and future models. So what we're trying to do now is to get in place a really good, solid interim process that we can implement effectively quickly, so that we don't delay arts funding to organizations and individuals. And then council will recall that in the last budget process, we established 2027 as the target for a review of our grants programs, and so that's why we've set a target here for 3 years implementation in this manner, so that we have enough time to test this model and also have conversations with industry about the longer-term strategy.
So, Mr. Regier, I guess I hear your answer. To be frank, I respectfully don't agree with that approach. I would have liked to have seen that level of engagement happen because it will impact us. You're also in the report talk about the creation of a Waterloo Region Arts Council and so on. And so I'm just, again, seeing something that has been a concern for me around this horseshoe before, which has been scope creep in areas that are historically a municipal responsibility. And so so that is an area of concern. I will ask on the, is the report assuming that KCI or key cultural institutional funding will continue to be administered by region staff separate from this recommendation?
Through the chair, that's correct.
Okay, thank you. And on the recommendations or the 6 options that were considered by the consultant, option number 6, where in fact some of that, the administration is through a staff person to lead and administer the distribution of funds in-house. It seems to me that hasn't really been fully thought out using existing staff resources within the organization. And I'm thinking, at a time when money is tough and so on, could we actually find, that capacity in-house and save $35,000 right there? I don't know who can answer that.
Through the chair, I could attempt an answer. We're currently not resourced to do this full program in-house. It requires about 250 hours of staff time to administer it. So that would be additional to the staff time we have available, which is why we've suggested about 10% of the fund be used for administration.
Sorry, it takes 250 hours to administer the distribution of this funding?
When we worked with the Waterloo Community Foundation last year, that was their estimate for the time that they put in to help us administer the fund.
Seems like an awful lot of money, an awful lot of time for $350,000 at a time when our area municipalities already have funding programs. And so I guess I'm just struggling. I honestly think that this needs to be sent back to the area, to have some conversations with area municipalities and see how we could better partner on this. And quite frankly, start as a region getting more into funding what our core roles are. We can help support funding, which was originally our role, but it doesn't mean we have to be taking on all this additional work, which again gets into scope creep.
I am going to move on, Councillor Bavanek, to our next speaker. You can join in again if you wish. Councillor James.
Thank you. Through you, Chair Harris. I was happy to receive this report because I know how messy this was some months ago. I am a firm believer that all orders of government should be supporting arts and culture. We see this with the feds. We see this with the province. I think there is an area for all levels in municipalities to support, and recognizing that, and I'll just kind of state where I am before I ask my question, is arts and culture can become very political very quickly. I'm someone who believes that it is political most of the time. So I think, leaning towards one of those options around creating an arts council is something that I would strongly support. However this ends up is how it ends up. But I think we need to, create that creation of that arts council is an avenue that should really be explored to take away the political element out of this, which can sometimes get in the way of supporting those artists and supporting the arts and culture community. My question, though, just is in regards to timeline and kind of next steps with this. What are we looking at, in terms of how coming full circle on this?
Yes, through the chair. So we have both the short and the long-term recommendation that you'll see in the report. The short term being that we contract with a local arts a community partner to administer the fund for the next 3 years, and that we in the interim begin to explore the feasibility of an arts council or other arts organization to take on the funding long term. Fully understand that this is something that the region wouldn't be doing solo. It would be done in full collaboration and consultation with community partners.
Okay, and just one further question. When it comes to the Arts Fund, traditionally, was it members of the public and council that were on there? What was the dynamic of that group?
The makeup of the
The former Waterloo Region Arts Fund?
yeah, there were 2 councillors that were part of that board. The remainder of the board, and actually the clerk was the secretary for the organization. The remainder of the board were community members.
Were community members? Okay, thank you very much. No questions.
Thank you. Councillor Craig.
Well, I'm just trying to, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just trying to get a understanding where this is heading. So you're suggesting option 3, is that what I'm reading into all of this?
Through the chair, 2 options. Option 1 being partnering with a community organization in the short term, and option 2, or the second part of the recommendation, is to explore the feasibility of an arts council.
Okay, so if we set up an arts council, it will be an independent group. Will it refer its decision-making back to council for final approval, or is this sort of where it's at?
Typically, an arts council, through the chair, is a full arm's length organization with its own board, and so wouldn't necessarily be referring back to council in terms of its decisions on funding.
Yeah, it won't be? I'm sorry, I'm trying to hear. I didn't hear.
Typically, they're not.
They don't. So my concern is, and I've raised this in the past, was the issue around the distribution of funds and people in Cambridge and some of the townships not really benefiting from the distribution. And I'm concerned about that, and that's not being addressed in any of this. And that's happened 2 years in a row, where a disproportionate amount of the funding went to Kitchener and Waterloo organizations. Cambridge and the townships receive very little. What are you suggesting to, in fact, bring this back into balance in some respect? So I can feel comfortable in talking to the concerns of people in Cambridge that don't feel they're being listened to.
Go ahead, Mr. Regier, if you want to chime in on this one.
Yeah, I guess, thank you, Chair Harris. I'd just like to clarify that we are not, the KPMG did not recommend the immediate establishment of an arts fund or as a regional arts council. This is a suggestion to explore with partners the feasibility of establishing such an organization. So it's really premature to contemplate how it would operate, what its terms of reference would be, how it would be structured, and so on. And obviously, because there's so many partners involved, and as Councillor Verbanovich has so rightly pointed out, it's absolutely essential to engage all of the area municipalities and all of the arts industry in the region in that process. This is a significant undertaking, and it would take time, and there's a lot of uncertainty around how it would be resolved. What we're proposing to do here on an interim basis is to make sure that funding continues to flow to artists through an arm's length organization, an organization that is contracted to make decisions on the artistic merits of the proponents. And, we can certainly, in whatever terms of reference we provide to them, indicate that, geographic distribution is to be something that taken into consideration in the distribution of funds, but the arts fund process had always taken into account geography and all. I think we don't see really any significant change in that regard. We would expect arts organizations from Cambridge, from all of the townships, and Waterloo and Kitchener to apply to receive funding from whatever organization we ultimately contract for this service.
I appreciate your comments, and I appreciate where we're going, and I do understand thoroughly it's premature. But I think I have to come back, Mr. Chair, to my comments with regards to an equity in terms of how this is done. I'm not suggesting that anything's being deliberate. I'm suggesting that perhaps in Cambridge or the townships, they're not aware of the opportunities. And that has to be put out there in terms of having people feeling motivated to apply. And I think that's part of the issue. So I'll be watching this as it unfolds. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Councillor Erb.
Thanks, Chair Harris. I support the direction that this report is suggesting. I think it's important to remember the immediate need that we have to find a vehicle to look after the funding of what the Community Foundation was doing. They don't want to do it anymore, so we have to find a new organization. The concept of a Waterloo Regional Arts Council is 2 or 3 years away. One of my questions, though, is would we try and find this organization for 3 years, but in the interim, would we start looking at the possibility of an arts council, or would that wait until the end of that timing?
It would be a concurrent process, so we would begin the exploration of the feasibility of an arts organization, arts council, while we were still contracted with this other organization to do the funding on the short term.
Good, because I think that would be a valuable asset to it. And I think one of the concerns that Councillor Craig has raised about maybe inequity in funding would be one of the very strong arguments we would want to have an arts council, where we would have people who understand the artistic community throughout the region that would be distributing funds based on the arts community and not a political decisions made by councillors. And so I support the direction this is going, and thanks to KPMG and for staff for bringing this forward.
Chair Redmond.
Thank you, Chair Harris. I would have to say that I read this report very differently than Councillor Verbanovich, and a little bit more how Councillor Erb read it. As somebody who sat on the Waterloo Regional Arts Fund since 2014, first as a councillor and then as regional chair, I saw that there was distribution amongst all corners of the region, and we had members on that Arts Council from the community of every area in the region, and indeed, creators and artists did receive grants over those years. The thought of an arts fund is a major undertaking. It's not a new undertaking, and I've been racking my brain. Some of you have been around the horseshoe as long as I have, and Roger Farwell, the late Roger Farwell, brought forward a Waterloo Regional Arts Council, and unfortunately it, I think, died a bit of a premature death, but that thirst and that interest in having an overarching arts council is not new in Waterloo Region, and certainly it's not new in other organizations in other communities, and I did appreciate that KPMG looked at other areas. When you talk about equity, one of the things why I'm so enthusiastically supporting having the Waterloo Regional Community Foundation continue to distribute the arts funding is artists rely on it, and they also have a lens through which they look at equity, and it's not necessarily geographic, but it's looking at equity deserving groups that may have been overlooked in the past. But again, I would tell you that historically, Waterloo Regional Arts Fund has distributed funds to a great variety of cultural groups and individuals. So I think that we stand on a history of flowing money to creators and artists. It is totally regionally funded, and I would hope, as Councillor Erb talked about, we would look at a further process. I mean, this recommendation says to explore the viability and stakeholder supports of an arts council. And I'm very supportive of that, and I would be interested to see what the result is after that process concludes. So I will totally be supporting this recommendation.
Councilor Rodriguez.
Thanks, Chair. A quick question of clarification. Would you say that the short-term recommendation to have the third-party organization, run with this would provide a more stable funding source, a bit more community-level distribution, between now and the time that a new arts council could be formed? Is that something that we would get out of this? Is some bit more predictability for the organizations that are, that, as the chair said, counting on the funding?
Yep. Through the chair, that's correct. We'd look to, one of the reasons we're looking to do a 3-year agreement is so that we have something in the interim that's like a nice, solid, transparent, efficient method for getting these funds out.
Thank you.
Councilor Wolf.
Through you, Mr. Chair. A couple of questions. This organization that you're looking at, can you give me some examples of who you would be looking at?
There would be a number of arts organizations that would be interested in this, I would think. I'm not sure I'm in the position to name names at the moment because we want to do a competitive process towards it.
Yeah, I guess that's one of my concerns is so many arts organizations are locally organized, like they're for Kitchener or they're Waterloo or they're Cambridge. And we're looking for a regional, so it would have to be a regional organization, I'm assuming.
Yeah, definitely would want an organization that had a regional reach.
Right. So, and then since 100% of the money is coming from the region, I do think that we should have some control. And I think, if I'm mistaken, part of the problem with our last organization that we had to sort of disband was we didn't have control. And it was set up in a different way than some of our advisory committees, which have criteria. We have the integrity commissioner, that kind of thing, as part of that. And I'm not so sure. I know arm's length is good and they make the decisions, but then it doesn't come back for approval in any way. So it seems like we're giving the money, but we don't have any control. And so that we wouldn't be able to say, hey, you have missed Cambridge again, or you're only giving to visual arts, or you're only doing music. I mean, we would have absolutely no control. So that's my concern. And then my third concern is, what are we waiting for? Why do we have to wait 3 years to do this arts council? Why can't we do it next year? So those are my concerns.
I know also, Mr. Vergara, you want to chime in on that answer?
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair Harris. So the process that we would use would be completely aligned with our existing arts policy, which has delegated the decision-making process to the council. What we establish is the criteria for decision-making, and then we ask the organization to execute on the criteria that we've already put in place as a council. Now, this is particularly important because this particular fund is primarily used to fund small-scale arts installations, and we are poorly positioned to judge the artistic merits of small-scale arts installations. A lot of these grants are in the $1,000 to $5,000 range, and that's why it's very labor-intensive and requires significant arts expertise to administer. So I think I'd like to assure Council that whatever mechanism we put in place, whoever we award this work to, it will be 100% aligned with Council's established policy framework for grants to arts organizations.
Councillor Foxton.
Thank you, and through the chair. A couple of things. First off is art's art. And so we don't select by territory or by political will or by any preconceived ideas. We allow the art to stand on its own merits. In fact, most art should be put in without a person standing by it so that the artwork can be adjusted by itself. A little bit of history. Years ago, the art committee would not allow the township, my township people went to sit in on the thing and they said, oh no, it's not for you guys, and sent us home. Chair Redmond and Councillor Helen Jallett at the time changed all that, and we thank her for that, because they would only allow KW residents to come to the Regional Arts Council and put their work on display. That's been changed. My fear is, I really like what's happened with the foundation looking at it. It was objective, it was fair, it was at arm's length. My fear is whatever we create, how do we prevent what happened to the last council that we had to dissolve because of the aggressiveness that they had towards other individuals? And that's going to be your challenge, is to make it objective. And maybe artwork stands on its own and nobody puts a name or where they're from on it. But yeah, we have to be careful. We have come a long way to the days when you send townships home saying you won't accept their stuff, but we're not there yet. Thank you.
Okay, we'll go to a second round, and I guess before we do that, perhaps I know some folks said that they would move and second the report when it came to that time, so I don't know if we want to get that mover into seconder now quickly. Councillor James, seconded by Councillor Erb. So we'll continue the discussion. Councillor Verbenovich.
Thanks very much, and I will at the end of the second round of questions actually be moving a motion of deferral, but I won't do that until that time so that everyone can have their opportunity. I do just want to ask a question, because if I heard Chair Redmond correctly, I understood that the Community Foundation would be taking this on. Is that correct?
Thank you for, if I may, Chair, just clarify. An organization like the Community Foundation would be optimal in my view. I think the Community Foundation has done an outstanding job of an interim application of processing the applications for grants.
Sure, and I agree with you, and I was just wanting that clarification because in the report, it sounded like we were going to go out to tender or something for that responsibility. I also note that we are dealing with 2025 deadlines, and it says if we can't find a community partner in time, staff would do it in 2025. Mr. Aguirre, how would staff, like, what's the thinking around that? How would staff undertake that? And is that not something that staff could just do anyway for this year? Or potentially ask the Community Foundation to take it on for one more year so that we could have some of this broader dialogue?
Yeah. Through you, Chair Harris. The Community Foundation has indicated to us that they cannot take it on this year, and they found that the process was quite challenging, particularly for the small individual artist contributions, and so they have graciously declined an interest in participating and facilitating. They did share the information as to what was required, how much effort they put into the process, and that's where we're able to quantify that process. For us to administer this internally, we would have to allocate a comparable amount of time, but perhaps more importantly, we would have to assemble an external group of experts, individuals to provide jury service to the selection of applicants, and so it's actually much more efficient for us to move forward by recruiting an external organization that's already set up to do this kind of work in a way similar to what the Community Foundation had done. And bear in mind that this work was quite unusual from, it was not a conventional piece of the Community Foundation's line of business. They more typically deal with not-for-profit organizations across the community. So I think that I think that answers the question.
I guess partially. I mean, it is in the staff report that was an option, so you must have contemplated it, that you may have to, in fact, undertake it and have considered a path forward in order to make it happen.
Yeah, that's correct. And there were some real barriers to achieving success in this. We also contemplated taking some additional time to recruit the organization and deferring funding until 2026. But really, this is one of the few programs that's available to individual artists in this community, and we felt it was essential to move the money out in 2025 per council's budget direction.
Okay, thanks. So, Mr. Chair, at the appropriate time, I am going to move referral today to initially to Council Day in 2 weeks. So that's for part of it, and the remainder to actually come back in the fall. So I'm going to ask that staff come back with a plan about how they would, using existing resources, implement this internally for 2025, and then have the broader report come back in the fall after they've had an opportunity to dialogue with the area municipalities. I think there's a variety of ways that this can be done going forward. As an example, you know, each of our area municipalities give arts funding out as well. Perhaps the region can partner with the area municipalities. So, you know, if North Dumfries has funds to give out, there's a portion of this fund that is actually given out by North Dumfries, and a portion by Cambridge, and a portion by Waterloo, as an example. I think that kind of dialogue should happen. We don't need to create a new fund. The region can still be acknowledged and all those kinds of things. But there hasn't even been the opportunity for that dialogue because the area municipalities weren't consulted as part of the process. And so that's why I'd like to see this deferred, make sure that we don't jeopardize funding for 2025, but let's take a little time in terms of the work that needs to be done and bring it back later this year.
Okay, we do have a deferral motion here now brought forward.
I'm holding it till everybody speaks.
Okay, we have two left in the queue, so let's do that then. Councillor Hunick, and then we'll come back to Councillor Rubin.
Thank you, Chair Harris. I'm not going to support the deferral. I'm glad for the direction that the staff report is heading toward. I'm just wondering if in the interim or in the long term, Commissioner McGeer, could you clarify how the Advisory Council would differ from the work of the Public Art Advisory Committee of the region of Waterloo, as that committee's already established? And would it be viable to offer their supports, at least in the interim period of 2025?
Thank you for the question through you, Chair Harris. This is exactly a question that I asked Julian Kingston about 2 months ago myself, and I think he's better positioned to answer the question than I am. But I really valued that response when I got it.
Thank you. Through the chair, so the Public Art Committee's mandate is really public art, and that's specific in their terms of reference. Also, the volume of work that would be required, I don't think it's something we would want to just ask of the Public Art Committee. We're talking about hours and hours of reviewing of applications. It's beyond the scope and it's outside of the terms of reference of public art.
can you say more about how it's beyond the terms of reference? Sorry, I don't understand that.
Certainly, through the chair, the Public Art Committee has very specific terms of reference to talk about selecting and approving the public art program, which is art for public display. It's quite different from providing art funding and art grants.
Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Craig.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a quick comment with regards to this whole direction that we're moving in. We can't take the politics out of anything, and that includes any kind of brand new arts council or whatever we end up coming up with. That's just part of life, and that's why I'm very much supportive of having some sort of council control over outcomes that may come out of a new organization. And as far as equity goes, I think it all depends on which part of the region you live in and who you talk to and the concerns that are raised that really define equity in terms of how things are done at a regional or a city level. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Benovich, we're back to yourself unless you wanted to chime in more. We'll deal with the deferral or referral for 2 weeks.
Yeah, so that the issue be referred to council on June 25th with two things to come forward. One being an implementation plan for staff to handle it internally in 2025 using existing resources in terms of the funding distribution, and two, a recommended date for it to come back in the fall following consultation with area municipalities. And that would come back in 2 weeks, which is when it would come back anyway. But we'd have that information before we made a final decision.
Okay, we have the deferral. We'll let the clerk staff put that up for folks to see. If there's any questions or comments to the deferral that we're dealing with right here, you can see that it's been put up. Oh, I have it in front of me, I guess, but do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Craig? So that the regional municipality of Waterloo refer the report back to staff, explore in-house alternatives for a short-term solution. Regional Waterloo Arts Funding Governance Review to Council on June 25th, 2025, and that the Arts Council governance decision be deferred until September 2025 and allow for input of area municipalities for use of existing resources. Okay. That is...
Thanks. I didn't say anything about resources, and that the Arts Council...
I think you talked about staff resources, internal staff resources.
So I talked about internal staff resources for managing the funding distribution for 2025, which is captured in the top piece, and that the broader recommendations in this report be deferred until a date to be advised by staff at council in 2 weeks, when this could come back following consultation with area municipalities. Staff may come back and say September, staff may come back and say October or November, as an example.
Okay, Councillor
depending
James.
on how long they need.
We'll let them put that together. Councillor James.
Yeah, thank you through you, Chair Harris. Just a question for Julian and Rod. In terms of, I'm so conscious of community and the arts and culture community when it comes to this, because they were so engaged before. Has there been communication with members of our arts and culture community, those who are very active? I know I've spoken to some who are supportive of this, but from your perspective, staff's perspective, their feelings and input with this, and maybe, from the KPMG report, I just know that our, that community, the communities, plural, are very engaged with this. So I just want to know if that perspective, if you can speak to some of that in terms of how you've come to this.
So through the chair, we have been in contact with artists and arts community and arts organizations. I don't think it's fair to say there's a consensus around this, and this is really why why we've used the terminology of exploring the feasibility rather than putting forth, because it's something that would need to have a lot of consultation, a lot of consensus building behind it. I mean, there would be some I think, voices in each corner, some for and some against. So I think we're going to have to do a lot of work actually to come to a consensus on this.
So I don't have any other further discussion. Councillor Bevenovic, do you want to just confirm that you're good with what we've got?
Okay, just so that there's clarity for everyone's sake, that the Regional Municipality of Waterloo refer the report back to staff to explore in-house alternatives for a short-term arts funding solution in 2025 under 6.1.2 PDL-CUL-25-015 Region of Waterloo Arts Funding Governance Review to Council on June 25th, 2025, and that the balance of the Arts Council governance recommendations be deferred to a date in fall 2025 to allow for input and of area municipalities. Yeah, that's fine.
Good. Councillor James, do you have something to chime back in on?
Yeah, just to follow up. So I just want to make sure this is specific for the Arts Fund in particular, not thinking about like key cultural organizations. I just want to make sure there's a very clear distinction in terms of Arts Council. So when it comes to the Waterloo Region Arts Fund, this is specifically for this. Just making clarity, I guess it's for you, Councillor Urbanovic. Very clear around that. Okay.
So colleagues, with that, there are no other speakers. We'll go right over to eScribe for a vote, please. Okay, that carries, colleagues. So that's the deferral that we've passed. So I'm going to move over to the next item, the regular agenda. We've got items 6.1, strategic priority, equitable services and opportunities. Is that where we're at? I believe so. Oh, no, that was it, Paul. So that was a consent agenda. Yes, we're going to go to strategic priority, resilient and future-ready organization. Provincial Offences Court Needs Assessment. I'll call back upon Rod Regier, Commissioner Planning and Development and Legislative Services, to speak to the report and introduce the presentation. We'll allow the clerk's office a moment to share the presentation, and this report is also being received for information. There will be no vote. So once everything's up, I'll let you go ahead, Rod. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair Harris. So as council and the community know, the region of Waterloo is responsible for administrating the Provincial Offences Act in the Waterloo region, and there's a court administration and infrastructure set up in order to do that. We have two branches. One is administration, and the other branch is prosecutions. And they both work in relative geographic proximity, and they come together in both online and in a courtroom setting. The community has been growing dramatically over the last number of years, and as a result, offenses under the Provincial Offences Act have also been increasing, and we've been doing a lot of managing a lot of volume in very constrained circumstances. And this is coming to a bit of a head here now with both space and courtroom infrastructure. So this is an information piece for council so that you can understand some of the issues that our POA admin is managing as we grow as a region. Okay.
Thank you, Rod. Good afternoon. My name is Julie Medeiros, and I'm the supervisor of the Provincial Offences Court. Thank you for the opportunity to present to you today. This is an information report to highlight what the Provincial Offences Court does and what are some of the constraints that we are facing at our current location. Before I begin, I'd like to acknowledge that much of today's presentation content was prepared by Patty McCulley, who unfortunately isn't able to join us. I'll be walking through the material on her behalf, and I'm happy to answer any questions or take them back for follow-up as needed. The administration of provincial offenses is one of the Keys Region's responsibilities. It supports access to justice, community safety, and the fair handling of offenses such as traffic violations, municipal bylaw infractions, and other provincial charges. POA services are a core part of the region's responsibility under the transfer agreement with the province. These services help maintain public trust in the justice system and ensure accessible, safe, and efficient legal processes. As caseloads rise and space constraints grow, we are under increasing pressure to sustain high service quality in facilities that no longer support our needs. While this presentation is for information only, it's important to note that the POA Court Facility Master Plan is now complete. It confirms that our current facilities are not sustainable for long-term service delivery and outlines potential next steps to modernize and improve operations. Next slide, please. Oh, sorry, can we go back a slide? Thank you. In 1999, the province of Ontario began downloading the responsibility for the Provincial Offences Act to municipalities within Ontario. The region of Waterloo POA Court opened its doors more than 25 years ago on February 14, 2000, at 2 locations, one in Kitchener and one in Cambridge. Common charges are under the Highway Traffic Act are speeding, careless driving, and turn on and safety. Many charges are also laid under the Trespass to Property Act and Liquor License Control Act. We also receive charges for animal cruelty and neglect under Provincial Animal Welfare Services Act. The POA Court also hears serious charges under the Occupational Health and Safety Act, where workplace accidents and fatalities may have occurred. There's also serious careless driving resulting in death charges heard in our POA Court. Charges for driving under suspension and with driving no insurance that can result in jail time, substantial fines, and suspensions. Red light camera charges continue to be processed at the POA Court, and automated speed enforcement charges move into administrative penalties program in February of this year to alleviate pressures at the POA Court. Next slide, please. POA administration accepts charges from enforcement agencies such as Waterloo Regional Police Services, OPP, Ministry of Labor, Ministry of Transportation, to name a few. Court administration process fines, explain legal procedures, and provide legal paperwork to the public in addition to many other legislative activities. Court administration have the authority to grant extensions of time to pay and reopening of cases. They also have the authority to issue driver's license suspensions and plate denials for non-payment of fines. Court proceedings are scheduled within legislative timelines and provide in-court support, which includes recording all appearances and ensuring decorum in the courtroom. We are also responsible for the collection of unpaid POA fines and work closely with defendants to develop reasonable payment plans. Municipal prosecutions is responsible for the prosecution of Part 1 charges, with majority issued by Waterloo Regional Police Services, OPP, Red Light Camera, and Regional Bylaw. There are strong relationships between POA and stakeholders, such as the Ministry of Attorney General, Ministry of Transportation, enforcement agencies, paralegals, and the public. Next slide, please. In December 2001, the POA Court moved from 50 Queen Street North to its current location at 77 Queen Street North in Kitchener. The Cambridge Court operations were consolidated in Kitchener in 2014 for efficiencies in operations. The staff complement has grown from 14 at the time of download to a combined total of 33 in administration and prosecutions. Next slide, please. Total revenue collected in 2024 exceeded $9 million, which is the highest amount generated since the program began in 2000. Next slide, please. Charge volume in 2024 exceeded 76,000 cases, the highest number of charges received in POA history. Most of these charges originated from Waterloo Regional Police Services, OPP, red light camera, and automated speed enforcement tickets. We envision that charges will continue to increase with the increasing population within the region. Next slide, please. In 2024, there was a backlog of 1,600 trial and 4,000 early resolution requests as a result of judicial shortages and the pandemic. However, that number has significantly decreased as of today. 9,835 early resolution meetings were held, as well as 9,501 trials. There were over 58,000 separate court appearances in 2024, resulting in 902 hours of judicial proceedings. 178 cases were appealed to the provincial court located at 85 Frederick Street. Next slide, please. We are located in 3 buildings, and we have 3 courtrooms, 2 at 77 Queen Street North and 1 at 20 Weber Street East. Court is held 5 days a week in 2 courtrooms for a total of 10 court sittings per week. The new provincially mandated hybrid court appearance model, where defendants can choose to either attend in person or by Zoom. This has increased staffing levels and the complexity of our court appearances. The potential transfer of Part 3 matters, which are more serious and require a mandatory court appearance, from the province to our municipal prosecutions will result in additional staffing resources and increased caseload for prosecutions. Next slide, please. Insufficient space and poor sound quality at the front counter, compromising confidentiality for members of the public. A small lobby, limited number of interview rooms, and only 2 wickets, resulting in long wait times with no space for confidentiality. We also have very limited space for citizens using mobility aids. Absence of security measures such as metal detectors and building security deficiencies result in safety concerns for staff and members of the public. An aging building with ongoing infrastructure issues. Shortage of workstations for staff who are required to be on site daily to provide in-person front counter service and in-court support. Limited storage for critical records that have a mandated retention. Lack of designated private spaces for managing disruptive individuals. Next slide, please. Initial discussions began in 2017 with many meetings held between 2017 and now. An architectural review of 134 Frederick Street happened in 2017 and again in 2024. An internal needs assessment report was written in 2024, as well as council services report by KPMG. Other steps include a leasing review of properties in downtown Kitchener and tours of potential properties within the region. Next slide, please. Facilities planning will identify potential land and/or building assets. A detailed business case report will be brought back to council at a later date. Thank you for your time and attention. I hope this overview has been helpful in understanding the current state of our POA facility. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have or take them back for follow-up as needed.
Okay, we do have some questions. Councillor Hunick.
Thank you, Chair Harris, and thank you for the report and for the corresponding presentation. I have no issue with the need for extra space. I think you've justified that quite well. Just in the interest of breaking down potentially harmful stereotypes, I noticed, I'm not sure if it was with respect to the KPMG portion or the staff portion of the report, but I was surprised that disruptive clients were characterized as those with mental health needs and vice versa. Those with mental health needs causing disruption. And so I just want us to be sensitive around the language that we use and the things that we inadvertently link, because not all disruptive clients have mental illness and not all mentally ill clients are disruptive. Thank you.
Thank you. Through the chair, absolutely. They are separate. We do have people that are disruptive that don't display any mental health challenges or requests. we have very many people that come through our office that are unhappy about getting a ticket or mandated to make a court appearance. So majority of the people that do come in are very unhappy. And we're the first line to take the brunt of that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councillor Urbanovich.
Thank you very much. And thanks for the report. I have to acknowledge I was a little shocked by some of the numbers that are attached to it. Particularly when we're facing some of the fiscal restraints that we're facing. I'm wondering, when we looked at this, you indicated that right now we have about 20,000 square feet in the two spaces that we're utilizing. What do we think our overall space needs will be?
Through the chair, I believe some of that is answered in the KPMG report. I don't have that actually in front of me at this moment. I would be happy to come back and report that to council exactly what the needs are.
Okay. So we don't know, like, if it's double or less or sort.
Through the chair to Councillor Urbanovich, from what I understand from a facilities perspective, we are looking for 20,000 square feet to accommodate the space needs for the court system. There was a space needs report that was done earlier in 2024, I believe it was, and it did identify that for current and future needs.
So 20,000 plus another 20. Am I understanding you correctly?
No, it was, sorry, it was 20,000.
But that's what we have now.
Okay, sorry for that. I will take another look at the report.
Okay.
But I believed it was between 20 and 24,000, but I will take another look.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, if you can, that would be helpful. I mean, I just did some, I guess my other question is, we know that throughout our area municipalities right now in the post-COVID world and so on, we have a fairly high degree of office vacancies. As an example, have we looked at renting as a possibility? Because, I mean, I have some quick numbers I'll share in a moment, but that would seem to be a more viable option in this world of uncertainties, particularly around things like ticketing, and will the province continue to allow, for example, the kind of speed zone ticketing that we're looking to implement and so on.
Yeah, so through the chair to Councillor Urbanovich, absolutely. When we looked at the numbers that were proposed budget for the 134 Frederick location, we quickly shifted gears to looking for rental space or lease space, office space that could be available to accommodate and consolidate the entire POA needs. And that's what we're actually currently doing. And we're proposing to bring back a report to council in the fall of this year.
Okay, I'll be curious on that because, for example, I just did some quick calculations, and if we needed in total 40,000 square feet, which seems higher than what you've suggested initially, subject to confirmation, at $30 a square foot, which is pretty generous. We're looking at $1.2 million a year. Under option 2 that you have there, you would need to, obviously there's some inflationary figures that would need to be worked into it and so on, but you could have upwards of 55 years of rent before you come up to what the cost of buying it. And if you get down to option 4, you actually get up to 84 years of rent. And like I say, in a world of uncertainties around, are we going to see the kind of ticket revenue that the report references? Because right now it talks about going from 70,000 ASC tickets to 875,000 tickets in a few years. I think the province has certainly signaled that that's likely not going to stay that way. And so, I think our demands that we're forecasting are high, and yeah, I'll be interested to see on what the report is that comes back in the fall.
Yes, so through the chair to Councillor Urbanovich, I did get a number from staff. It was upwards of 39,000 square feet for current and future needs, and totally agree with you with respect to your thoughts around renovating, building new, and renting. We are definitely looking at the renting option.
Yeah, because I think the only last point I'll make, Mr. Chair, is there are a number of buildings that are actually already in pretty good shape, so it wouldn't need as much rental space. And I think the other thing that we might want to think about is, particularly for our court, I understand why the provincial court is centralized, but it would actually probably be more convenient for people in Cambridge and North Dumfries if they actually went to Cambridge, if they had to go to traffic court as opposed to coming all the way north to the region. And something, the same could be arguably said for Waterloo and some of the townships. They can come to North Dumfries, that's true.
Okay, Councillor Hunick.
Thank you, Chair Harris. Commissioner Rose, I'm not sure if you've looked into this or if you could answer it now, but I was wondering if Market Square had been looked into as a location. It's fairly central, and it's large, and it's open for business, I think.
To the chair to Councillor Hunick, we are looking at all possibilities through our real estate office. So we will bring back something in the fall for council to consider for rental space.
Okay, I don't see any more questions on this. It was for information only. Mr. Rodriguez, you're good? Okay. So we'll move on to item 8, the council committee tracking list for information. Is there any other business, colleagues? Okay. The next meeting is scheduled for August the 12th, 2025. We'll now start a vote to adjourn the meeting. We'll move by Councillor Fox and seconded by Councillor Rodriguez. All those in favor, please use your yes or no button on eScribe. Thank you. I want to make sure both sides are covered. So. Okay, it looks like it's carried, so thank you, and we'll take a few minutes here of a break, and